Yo, what up? This is D Knight, and you're listening to the Pardon the Interaction podcast. My oh my, we've had so much going on. For starters, in case you missed it, we've got a new addition to the Pardon Pie family, Tara Dublin. Make sure you go follow her on Twitter at Tara Dublin Rocks. Also, pick up a copy of her book while you're at it. Make her day, The Sound of Settling. A very fun and interesting read compared to the things we talk about on this podcast. But yeah, we're heading toward the do or die time for the 2024 election. Go ahead and hit up JoeBiden.com. Get that man like $1 a month or something. Help his campaign staff up and get prepared to try and save our democracy. And make sure to grab like one other person you know and tell them about the podcast. Make sure they subscribe and tune in every single week. We got a lot of things coming up for you this year. We need all the support that we can get. So if you do your part and help us grow our audience, we'll do our part and help elect Joe Biden in 2024 and save American democracy. And this is the Pardon the Insurrection podcast. You are listening to the Pardon the Insurrection podcast, where we start off with a former president of the United States stealing national security secrets, and we end on soup and sports bras.
And boob sweat. Hey man, we didn't talk about Beto. Best motherfucker out there.
I mean, you know,
the commercial?
No, you didn't see him at one of his town halls?
You know, speaking of someone else who's also fed up.
Yeah, he was being heckled. So some people with Abbott signs come to Beto's town hall, and he's talking about the Uvalde massacre. And he's, you know, it's a kind of a somber moment, and these guys start heckling him. And then he says, when he goes, it might be funny to you, motherfucker, but it ain't to me. Well, he didn't say ain't. He said, it's not to me. And I watched that clip so many times because it was such a real moment of being fed the fuck up. You might be laughing, motherfucker. Of all the things to laugh at, that's just how just awful Republicans are. And yes, they looked how you would imagine they looked. But it was it was so good to hear. And he put them and the crowd people started standing up and clapping. You know, people are tired. And Beto he's meeting people where they are. He's going to them. He knows that he's talking about the issues. He's listening to people's concerns, you know. And I don't see how anyone can look at Abbott and think, I want more of that. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't have town halls. He did agree to debate Beto. But he's like, you know, I think he agreed to it because he knows that he's going to fucking lose. Because Beto is convincing Republicans. And the thing had these little videos that have been posted on Twitter where they're talking. It kind of reminds me of the Republican voters against Trump videos they used to do. And people will say, you know, why they can't pull the trigger for Trump, why they're never Trumpers. It's kind of like that. They're like, you know, I've been a Republican my whole life. And I'm voting for Beto because I actually listened to him. And he talks about the issues. He answered my questions. He talks about the issues. He talks about the plan. It's like my mom is an educator and what he wants to do for teachers. And then it's like, that's, you know, being open-minded. And you realize, and he's like, Abbott's just for himself. It was like, how did you not know that already? You know? Like, how did you not know that already? That Abbott isn't for Texans? You know, that Abbott is not for Texans. Like, this really just dawned on you? Like, where the hell have you been?
In Texas schools?
Yeah. Yeah. There you
well,
go.
You know,
it's not a coincidence that Republicans are against education. Why would they help raise up voters to vote against them and to know better? That doesn't help them win.
Right. Why would they instill in schools the ability to teach children critical thinking skills, which would ultimately lead to them not voting for Republicans? It would be against their self-interest.
Absolutely. That's why they want to restrict access to higher education. They want to, what's his name? The fascist. He wants,
Ron the
the
fascist.
teachers to give their.
I feel like that name's no longer fitting. Like after his idol stole nuclear secrets from the government. I mean, it's just he seems small in comparison.
See, Trump is corrupt as fuck.
Understatement.
And he is corrupt as fuck. DeSantis is just wants to be I don't see him selling secrets. I see him, he just wants to be Hitler. I don't see him at all going through that type of trouble. He wants the power, and he wants to do to the rest of the country what he's doing in Florida. That's what he wants. That is his end game. Trump was already, what can I bargain while I'm running? Because he was already, making speeches and things on the tape during the campaign, during his campaign in 2016. So he had plans. And I was reading something about Ivana, and her father was someone in the Czech military or something like that. And they're kind of like, they were kind of Nazi adjacent, I guess.
Define Nazi adjacent.
Well, they weren't Nazis.
Okay, look, I feel like in general, close usually counts in two things: horseshoes and hand grenades. But I feel like we have to add Nazis to the list. Like, if you're close, it's not. It counts, right? It's the same.
There was. I think he wrote a book. I mean, I don't know much about a whole lot about Ivana Trump's father, and I didn't really care to look into it either. But I found it was interesting. I'm sure I have it saved because I do that, and I'm like, I'll go back to this later, and then I never do because there's like 20 other things happen that I forget all about it until I look at my saved stories. But it made sense, his relationship with Putin and his authoritarian leanings.
His obsession with demagoguery.
Yeah, like he was kind of seen as a fool, which he is, but he's a dangerous fool. And, the people around him who are like foreign assets, were really eager to do the dirty work. Do the dirty work for him. And then he was that one guy, Barrick, he was trying to get named as a special convoy to the Middle East.
Well, like a special. It's good for business.
Hey, is that the same Tom Barrack who was ordered to wear his ankle monitor to court for being a massive flight risk?
Yes, it's that one. The one who tried to appeal that decision by the judge, and the judge was like, bitch, no.
Yeah, right?
He's fucking crazy.
He's like, I'm not a flight risk. And he's like, are you holding a suitcase? And he's like, no.
A suitcase with gold bullion? Like, so why were you at Wells Fargo yesterday? Talking to your friends.
Suspicious reasons.
No, nothing. I just wanted to take out $1 million or $2 million, folding money, walking around money. He also, but like he was put on house arrest at his $25 million mansion.
What a punishment.
That he put up for bail. But there's another guy, a guy that worked for him that did some shit. But I think he's going down. But Barrick is paying.
Yeah, which guy? Like,
I can't remember his name.
No, like, good luck, because there's a whole slew of them.
Well, he worked with Barrick, and he did some shit too. And then he was caught up. At the same time, I think Barrick was arrested. They were both at the same time. But Barrick put up that guy's bail using Barrick's house where the guy also lives.
Yeah, that's not.
When I'm reading some of this stuff, I'm like, what the hell? Whenever I see men living together like that, it always perks my senses up a little bit. Because then I always think about
74-year-old men can have roommates. There's no judgment here.
But I know that but I just think about because some of these
it's not like when you're like a 27-year-old member of Congress and you have a 16-year-old adopted son living with you.
Well, when you're like in your 70s, I think a lot of older people that.
For everyone out there listening, we're about to go off the rails. I'm warning you in advance. I'm letting you know now.
They still harbor like kind of the same behaviors that from the time that they grew up in, when homosexuality was criminalized and demonized and they had to be closeted, and you just knew that that's his or like guys like living with his quote unquote uncle, but it really wasn't his uncle, or like the two lady roommates who lived together their entire lives and what have you. But I think that
or the member of Congress with the adopted son who actually still has a real father who was alive and well.
Hashtag where is Nestor?
Where is Nestor? I want to know that too. But also, I think
he's aged out.
Well, he was hanging out on spring break. He said his dad said he could go. How do you just take a teenage boy in? Like, I don't.
I told you it was going off the rails. I told you. Here we are.
But back to Barrett, okay? Being that he is so entrenched in the Republican side of things, he can't really, live his best life. Because he has to answer to those hypocrites. And sadly, for many, they would rather deny themselves that openness or whatever than to be free.
Well, I totally disagree in the case of the fellow representative I was referring to earlier. He's actually in the party that probably endorses the shacking up with kids. So that seems to be a common thread among those guys. We frown upon that over here in the Democratic Party. That's not how we're like, hey, we don't care what gender you're interested in, but we do have an age limit. Yeah. So
I don't know why he hasn't been locked up yet. I mean, they have testimony. They have, and the thing is, no matter what.
Okay, for everyone who's like, I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about. We're referring to Representative Matt Gaetz.
Oh, Matt Gaetz, yeah.
He's not Voldemort. We can say his fucking name. His associate, Joel Greenberg, who's basically his pimp. I really don't know a better word to this. I mean, co-conspirator, cohort, pimp / I don't know what they do on their spare time, but apparently they had sex with young girls together. Or before, we'll say allegedly. Mm-hmm. I'm going to assume that when you're making $1,000 payments for ice cream, that's not a legitimate transaction. Just going to assume that those monies were being.
That sounds like a strain of a new designer drug. That ice cream. Got some of that ice cream.
Yo,
you're gonna love it.
Have you tried this ice cream, dog? This shit will get you right.
Well, so his associate Joel Greenberg, who has, he pleaded guilty, right?
To a number of charges.
So he's pleaded guilty. He keeps having his sentencing hearing pushed back. And as it stands now, it's scheduled for December 1st. Now we thought he would be sentenced by like last July
year.
Or
yes.
last August. So the only reasonable conclusion is that they just are uncovering more and more to the story.
There's more stuff. Yeah. I mean, I guess you're right. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, look at where we are, and then we're finding out that the DOJ had been investigating the missing documents for a year and a half, pretty much since Trump left office.
And so I'm guessing they gave him so much and it just kept uncovering more hints. And they're probably, this is wild speculation, but let's see who else gets caught up in this scandal. I don't know if it'll end at Matt Gaetz.
I mean, the crazy thing is, true. I think Greenberg was facing something like 30 plus charges, and he only pled guilty to like, I don't know, was it half a dozen, something like that? So you can imagine if those other potential 30 crimes involved other people, any kind of conspiracy of any sort, like that's a lot of leads to run down like that. No, there's not enough investigators in the world to get that done in a short amount. It's just impossible.
I got to track the girls down, and maybe they're interviewing like, okay, they went to Chuck E. Cheese.
These aren't just sexual scandals. Like there's fraud, there's fraudulent voters. There's, it's just there's. If for everyone out there, just Google Joel Greenberg and like, it's like watching a fucking rundown of Florida Man, except it happened to this one guy. Like this one guy is every Florida Man headline for the past month. But every time you pull it up, it's Joel Greenberg. It's bonkers. Like I can't. You're like, damn. You would be like, damn. How could one guy do all this much crime? And then like, I have a perfect example for you. Trump. He must have learned from the best. You're like, damn, how does a motherfucker find a way to commit a new crime every day? He figured it out. He cracked the code. He found the Trump manual, something. Yeah.
Well, hey, we might just see that we're taking down that sex trafficking ring that QAnon keeps saying, is.
Oh, yeah. The cabal.
The storm is coming.
I wonder if we went to Matt Gaetz' house, if we'd find a bunch of Wayfair cabinets that he ships.
Oh my God. Wayfair, as it stands, we're still accepting sponsorship offers.
No, they're all wacky. I would say that's probably one of the craziest. And I'm thinking, do the armoires have breathing holes in them? Like, do they give the 3-year-old some food and tell them not to eat it all, pace themselves? Like, guess you got 3 days, or is it all overnight shipping? I'm like, asking even one question would blow that whole theory apart.
Yeah, for everyone out there hearing the jingle in their heads, let me ruin it for you. Wayfair, you've got just what I need.
That was lovely. I didn't even know they
hear
had
that
a
in
jingle.
your sleep. Yeah.
Wayfair, like that. Of all these people are nuts, man. Like the mental health crisis in this country. I'm convinced that at least a third of the country needs medication.
Well, I do believe, like statistically, a third of the country probably is on medication.
So they can't afford it.
So I just happened to have read just now, a few minutes ago, that about 13% of Americans said they were on SSRIs, but that was between 2013 and 2018. So who knows about now? Probably more. I started taking this year.
Yeah, you have to assume that after 2020, we're all on SSRIs. I need some. I don't know about you. I'm still traumatized. Yeah.
I think that number realistically is higher, but we have so many people that are uninsured in this country that they're not able to get the help they need.
And that's why we should legalize marijuana.
If everybody was on gummies, man, we'd be chill.
Yeah. Well, as someone who does a lot of gummies, I do have to say that after a while, it doesn't really do the trick for anxiety, and I still needed those SSRIs.
That
doesn't mean I quit the gummies.
I do them more to sleep. I love, they help me sleep so well. Yeah, I'm gonna sleep so well. But I think, my throat is uh, feels like sandpaper. Oh,
Yeah,
it's just
well,
very uncomfortable.
then
But
maybe we should wrap up this last episode of Pardon the Insurrection.
Oh damn! Did we get canceled again? I thought we were good today. We were mostly well behaved. Like the furthest off the rails we got was like boob sweat and accusing old men of being, well, we're outing old men. So
That's true. I asked if you guys wanted to talk about dicks, and nobody did.
don't talk about what?
Dicks, except for that time. Well, we didn't hear about your the giant penis toilet that you told us you got.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so you as women, you may or may not be familiar with this situation, but like occasionally when you sit down and like, oh, you're about to get ready to do your thing, like, and it like slips down there and touches water, there is no more of a horrifying feeling than when that happens.
Oh, streets would talk about that.
Especially in like a publicly accessible toilet. Like then you're like, oh, I'm going to instantly die. Like you're like, oh, I just contracted something. I need to go get tested. When it falls down and like splashes in the water, it's so bad.
I had never considered that issue. Thank you for enlightening me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we covered everything important, right?
I think we did. We didn't talk about the guy rolling up on the FBI with a nail gun, because that was wild.
I mean, I think I covered that in the Merrick Garland reinterpretation of his press conference at the end, where I was like, "You can shoot me, but you can't kill me." The guy.
Well, the guy was on what do you call it? Parler or Truth Social, one of those right-wing social media sites.
Yeah, he is apparently
bragging about. He bragged about it after he went to the FBI, and he got back and he goes, "Man, I just went to the FBI and he started talking about Trump and this can't stand." And so he had been on there saying he was going to have violence. And this girl or somebody had said that they had commented on him and they were like, "I just sent your photo and this post to the FBI." And he's like, "Tell them to bring it." Well, they did, and he's dead.
Yes, so, in case you were wondering how the story ended, he's no longer with us. Rest in peace, former Trump supporter who has ties to the Proud Boys and was at the Capitol on January 6th. As a side note, one of the most frustrating things is that, like, after an attack on the Capitol, everyone just up and went the fuck home. Like, I can't imagine, like, whose decision was it to not shut down DC? Like shut down all travel, all flights, like
block the roads,
right? Hey, like I'm sorry, you tried to fucking assassinate the entire line of succession. Nobody's
you're not leaving. You're not leaving town.
So I assume someone at the FBI could have made that decision. Christopher Wray, here's looking at you. I appreciate you trying to make up for this by raiding Trump's property in Florida, but like if you had arrested everyone that day, you wouldn't have had this motherfucker running up in your field office in Ohio, shooting a nail gun at your cohorts and waving around an assault rifle and getting into a firefight later in the day. Like, I'm just saying, like, if you had maybe nipped this problem in the bud the day of, you wouldn't be here today. Just for future reference, lesson learned, I hope.
If the Senate had just fucking voted to remove Trump from office in the second impeachment trial, MAGA would have got over it. And then away he would have gone. And that would have been,
Well, away he would have gone, but he'd still be on his way to prison and possibly being executed for stealing Defense Department secrets. I don't think we've really like addressed the gravity of the situation. Like it's so bananas. I don't really even know.
But do you remember on the last episode where I made a quote unquote joke about Trump selling our documents, our classified documents. And we were like, next year when that's happened, we'll all laugh and be like, oh, remember.
That's exactly.
But it was
that's exactly. And it's like, 2 days later.
Yeah, it's been 2 days. So my prophecy was a little bit off.
I go from one room to the other. It's I don't know, it's so weird. It's like when I tried to lay on my back, it felt like my throat was getting more whatever the hell is going on in it right now. And when I'm in the kitchen, it's not as bad. But then I walk back into the living room and then it's really bad. Sitting here walking and
I mean, like your COVID acts up depending on what room you're in. That's
what it felt like. How I said it, it's like it was hot. So it's like in one room, it's super. I was so hot.
Yes, I agree. You're so hot.
And then I go in the other one,
Even with
and
the
then
cooties.
I got the fans on, and I like it. I love it like Alaska in my house. Like it can be 65 degrees. I try to keep it as cold as I can. But so and then my arm. So I fell asleep. It was like maybe 2 weeks ago, before Steve and I went to Rio Doso. I fell asleep on the couch. Okay, I passed out. And so because I was drunk, I didn't wake up. When my arm fell asleep, because usually I can feel it in my sleep and then, shake it out and then you turn on the other side. So I slept on the one side all night. And I get up in my arm and I'm like, crap. So I'm shaking it. Hours go by. It still feels the exact same. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, okay, all right. And then I call my ex-husband and he goes, well, if it's going on for like a week, then you get worried. Steve and I go, and then the whole thing was my hand was completely numb. So I'm sitting here researching and writing articles, and it feels like there's pins and needles.
Did you know if you fall asleep on your arm and your hand goes completely numb and you try to rub one out, it feels like a stranger's doing it? Ignore that. I'm sorry. I don't know that from...
It'll feel like a stranger's picking your penis out of the toilet water.
Yeah.
I can't. That's gross. That's gross. But it's been weeks. When did Steve and I go to Rio Doso? Like before last time we recorded. Well, it's come back a lot of the feeling, but my hand is still numb on one side, and I can feel in my pinky finger and the ring finger, but it feels like I have frostbite.
Girl, we got to get you some Obamacare.
So my whole arm, like my whole hand was that way. And imagine when I was trying to type on the computer and write, it was torture. It still is, because my pinky, it feels like when I put it on the computer, I can feel every nerve in there. And I'm just hoping that it'll kind of go away sometime soon. I mean, I like I said, I have more feeling back in my hands. And I went to a chiropractor when I was in Rio Doso. I went to get a massage, but he's also a chiropractor, so he knows. And I was telling him about my hands, and I thought, well, maybe I slept on it and a nerve got pinched. And then he was telling me which ones are connected to the fingers and the neck and stuff. So he, tried to help the best he could, but I'm like, I don't know what to do unless some of the nerves were just damaged, because it was like that for so long. I wonder if one of these days I'm going to make enough money to afford insurance. Hopefully, maybe. And even my broke ass Texas said, no, you make too much money, because raising 4 kids on $1,500 a month, you don't qualify for Medicaid. Even.
Oh no.
I was like,
Biden, we voted for you to solve all the problems in the world. Like, can you at least give my girl Ty some fucking insurance, bro? Like, I mean, it's not like you're busy solving the world's problems and like lowering gas prices and passing major legislation to solve climate change. and solving the economical issues associated with the lack of production of semiconductors, and arresting a former president who stole nuclear secrets and probably intended to sell them to foreign governments. And it's not like you're busy or anything. It's not like you've had COVID. I mean, like, what the fuck have you been doing with your time?
Oh man, that is true. Dark Brandon did have COVID and he still did the damn thing. What a boy. It's hard to believe that. It's today, it's Thursday, right?
Yeah, what does time have any meaning anymore?
Literally, no, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. Because I'm like, man, I didn't have time to just really, really enjoy Alex Jones getting his ass handed to him, and then the FBI search at Lago, and then Trump pleading the fifth with Letitia James, then crazy nail gun guy. And then, yeah, it's just so much. I go, man, I don't know. I mean, I can't remember a time after.
This is why we all need SSRIs.
I can't imagine a time after the 2016 election or after Trump was inaugurated that there's been a day where there hasn't been something insane. I mean, and I honestly think that they should take away Lauren Boebert's congressional account and Marjorie Taylor Greene's, because they're using them like personal accounts. They talk about no official business. You go through all their tweets and it's nothing about anything of their district.
Well, that's because Marjorie Taylor Greene ain't got no real job. She ain't on no committees, yo. Bitch ain't got no. What can she talk about?
Well, she can talk about legislation that the Republicans passed. Oh, wait, they don't pass any either.
Damn.
So there's that as well. But I think they both, I mean, they should be booted out. Unacceptable behavior. If they had been thrown out, and for one, if those 147 House members that voted not to certify Biden's win had not been seated, those suspected participating on January 6th, and that was an act of treason not to certify the results of a free and fair election, they should not have been sworn in at all. They should not have been sworn in.
It's very difficult to disagree with your point.
They make it so difficult. They're running around like maniacs. But what they're doing is they're creating an environment that when accountability does come for them, it's going to, this is a political. So there's so many of them that are treasonous and seditionists that it would look like pretty much the whole entire Republican Party was being taken out. I mean, which pretty much all of them suck, and we're in on it. So that's appropriate. But
if you give Merrick Garland enough time, I think a number of them will be going to prison fairly soon.
But they would spin that. They would spin that to say, like, look at the Democrats they're taking us all. Look at what's going, and MAGA will believe it. So it feels like, I know it's the right thing to do, but God, it feels like a catch-22. It feels like you can't, it's going to be a lose-lose regardless because of the propaganda machine.
Yeah, well, justice can't let that sway them from doing the right thing, right? They have to just put whatever political consequences aside and do what's right, because, I mean, we're fucked either way, so you might as well do the job to the best of your ability. Let the chips fall where they may. Are you okay there? I think yes. I caught your lung. Would you like it back?
Oh my God! You got it, please. I need it to breathe.
All right, I'll FedEx it to you.
I need it. Oh my God!
2 days late. And
this is I don't know.
FedEx, we are not accepting advertisers at this time.
Yeah, to be fair, I do work for the competition, so I guess it'd be wrong of me to take a FedEx sponsorship. These days, I mean, I've met a lot of people.
I mean, I've met a lot of people because I'm social. I go out a lot, and El Paso, everybody's friendly here. And so all my exes, like I met at a bar pretty much, most of them.
No.
Steve, I met through DMs. He slid in my DMs at his old ass to hit on me. My space laser, I met him
Steve.
on Facebook in my DMs too. I'm not going to say his name because he's famous, but he slid in my DMs on Instagram because it's all boobs there. It's worth it.
Okay, it does go down in the DMs.
It does. And I have been blocking all of my exes because I really hate them popping in because I've had the same number forever. And so it's like it doesn't change. And then it doesn't matter. I dated this guy JJ in 2016. He founded this hail repair company chain, and he's got like 37 locations. Comes up to me at the bar and he goes, I'm looking for a girlfriend for 3 months and I'm a really good boyfriend. And he was in town
months.
doing hail.
What a line.
El Paso hail gets bad hail. So he comes. So,
he's doing
and
repairs.
I was intrigued. I thought that was very bold. Then he comes right up and he says that, and we dated for a while, but he would do weird things. Like he would have his guys staying in the place they were renting when they were here working. And one day he's naked and he's drunk and he's just sitting on the couch, like watching baseball. And his friends are just pouring shit.
That is some total man shit.
JJ's in his
friends
50s.
Are there?
Oh my gosh. But I was like, this is crazy. Well, then we stopped talking, just distant stuff. And then right after I met Steve, he had sent me a text. He goes, I kind of hate that we didn't, our relationship, that things kind of ended the way they, I think about that time.
How did they end? Naked on the couch watching baseball? Because I could totally understand why. I go,
JJ, that was 2 years ago. Nobody thinking about that. He was like, oh, do you want to go to dinner on Valentine's Day? I was like, nah. But it didn't stop him from trying. So he's been trying since then. And he texted me 2 days ago. And
hey, you should be like, all right, I have COVID.
He texted me like it was 2 or 3 days ago. He had texted me this week to like, if maybe we could go grab a drink or dinner sometime. And I was like, are you in town? He's like, no. And I was like, okay, well then that would be awkward. So, so he's like, talking about, do you still have that shirt I gave you? He gave me this limited edition Bill Murray shirt. It was like a David Bowie tribute. It's a super cool shirt, and I'm a huge Bill Murray.
Ooh. Well, yeah, now I'm actually like rooting for him. I need to give him a second chance.
I don't know.
Sounds like an awesome fucking shirt.
I don't know. I wasn't going to talk to him. I wasn't going to respond back, but I didn't respond after his last text message. But then I get a text from a guy I dated in 2016 also, after I first moved back here. Well, I dated a lot of people then. I was enjoying the attention. But Albert and I dated off and on for years. But he just sent me a text and he had been asking me, why don't you come over or let's go have a drink of this? And I'm just like, eh. He says, I want to see you. He said something and then he goes, I got the goods. I was like, what the fuck? Oh, JJ, the first message he sent me was, I want to make you wet the bed. So I didn't respond to that. And then I figured the air, he came back.
Is this like a Trump tape fetish or something? Or like, what are we?
Story. But I literally have had like Moscow. 3 people that I've talked to or been in a relationship with, like in the last week, like texting or DMing me and like trying to go have a drink or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's such a hassle, like to deal with all the distractions. And I'm like, man, I don't have time for this. I'm not getting any freaking younger. You know, I like to be wasting my time. When the situation that I have going on right now, it works for me. It's pretty solid. It's pretty solid. Someone, they'd have to give me a lot of money.
All right, and that concludes Love Stories from Ty. Brand new segment.
I'm sitting here talking to you like we're on the phone on a hotline. How?
Oh no, we're totally fine.
Like on the phone when you were in high school and you just talk about random shit because you just want to stay on the phone for 8 hours with your friends, and you're like,
okay, Ty, you hang up.
No, you hang up.
But you hang up first.
I'm not hanging up first. I still cared about that.
Wait, hold on a second. Mom, get out of my room. Okay. All right. No, but seriously,
get off the damn
I had
phone.
to put mine on mute because they were doing something wild upstairs, and the hardwood's upstairs, so I can hear everything, and they're shutting the door and slamming it and opening it and slamming. So I wasn't going to go upstairs. So I had muted so I could yell at them. You know, I haven't been upstairs in this house. I went once last week because I knew that Chris was lying when I said, do you have any food trash up there? Like that apple that you took up that you were eating, is that core in the trash can, or am I going to find it like wrapped in a pillowcase or...
I mean, this sounds like a Carol segment.
I went up there, and I haven't been back. It was everything he said it wasn't. Everything I suspected it was, and it was awful. And they finally like cleaned that up though. But I just don't go upstairs. I don't know why. We all stay down here. This house has 4 bathrooms, and all of us cram into one. We all use the same. It's like the size of a hat. It's got a bathtub, but it's a tiny bathroom. We all use that one.
All right. And to recap, we have Trump going to prison for violations of the Espionage Act. We have Merrick Garland, who was fed the fuck up. We have Beto O'Rourke, who was also fed the fuck up. Great pickup lines. I'm looking for a girlfriend for like 3 months. Are you down? Yay or nay? What else did we have there? Oh, 73-year-old man can't have roommates. Purchase yourself a big dick toilet out there if you might be suffering
big dick
from
toilet. I just
splash
can't
issues.
You know,
sweaty boobs. Clean your room. Get your Paxlovid because COVID is everywhere. Did I miss anything? Yeah. So I guess closing thoughts time. Carol, you have anything you would like to close with?
I gotta start recording this at like 9 a.m. so I'm not fucking falling asleep at the end.
Totally fair. Ty.
Final thoughts. Let's see what tomorrow brings. I mean, they've been giving out subpoenas like Halloween candy and pulling kick doors. I'm kind of excited.
Are you?
To see, especially after the nuclear thing. The nuclear thing, that's a whole other can of worms. What that's gonna do for our sort of allyship or whatever with Saudi Arabia. I mean, Biden was just there. You know? So I wonder, like, if they've been like on the phone contacting people who they thought it would be sold to, or if even that information has been passed on, because whoever knew, they knew what those documents were, and they knew what 3 rooms those boxes were in. So them knowing that, they had to know who they were given to. But maybe that's not something that Garland wants to reveal just yet, which makes sense and announcing the way that, it's a very sensitive matter.
Beyond.
Sensitive thing to deal with. But I imagine that it's as it unfolds, we're going to find out more. The race to the midterms, I think that all these agencies have realized we can't have him back. And I think that they are ramping things up prior to the midterms, prior to November, to, put the pedal to the metal a little bit and hold these people accountable.
Agreed. The political implications of all this, I take this to mean that Republicans are fucked. Abandoned ship, rats, even rats instinctually understand that when the ship is flooding with water, it's time to get the fuck out. Like, please tell me you have the same senses that a fucking rat does. I mean, it's that time. He's going to prison. His lawyers are going to prison. Anyone who looked at those documents are going to prison. And we haven't even gotten to January 6th yet. Motherfuckers are getting their cell phone seized. Like, you can jump ship now. It's perfectly fine. Fox News, Sean Hannity. Like, I know you're the unofficial, White House advisor for the, post-Trump administration at this point. Dude, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Save yourselves. Save yourselves.